Okay, this is where I think we started on this section and left off here. Is that right? Last time?
Yes.
Okay, where we started talking about how you talk about metaphysics. Now, this whole section seems a little bit like about metaphysics, right? Seems a little choppy and like jumping around, but the truth is that there's not a whole lot of theories to talk about. There's just like these big chunks of material about metaphysics, okay? So we talked a little bit about what metaphysics is, and that's when we started talking about the is sentences, right, with Socrates and all that. Then we started talking about, speaking of what something is, let's talk about persons, souls, and natures, okay? Now we're talking about, okay, if you're going to do metaphysics, we're kind of going back to the beginning a little bit. If you're going to do metaphysics, how do you do that? Like what, because that's kind of hard. Do you just ask a bunch of really big, astronomical, cosmic questions, or like what? So the first thing that you do when you're trying to solve these kind of problems, or like think through metaphysical realities, or questions, then we start with, and this is a good place to start, we start with what we already know or have a good reason to believe, okay? Things that we access from our common sense or from our sense experience, and then our own knowledge of ourselves, okay? These are things that you could at least start from, right? Descartes said, yeah, I don't know if you can know any of that, but he was a little extreme, as we know. So we can go ahead and accept these things and then move from there, okay? What does it seem like to you? What is your intuition? Okay, these are good places to start, valuable places to start. All right, so the second thing you do, once you identify things and once you like really are able to go, okay, this is what the deal is. Like, this is how I see things. This is how I perceive things. This is what I know. Then you go on to step 2. Clearly state the problem, which might seem like a weird word to use in this scenario, but clearly, what are we talking about? What's the issue here? Why are we having a conversation about apples and their redness? Okay, so remember the last one said the apple is both red and sweet. Okay, well let's ask the next question. 2 apples seem to have the same taste. How is this possible? Right? You taste something, you generally know it's an apple. You taste another apple, and you're like, yeah, that's an apple. Why? Because they taste the same. Even if you had your eyes closed, right? Somebody fed you a bite of this, you couldn't touch it. Okay, you would still know it's an apple by its taste and its texture. Why is that? Why is that? Is the specific apple taste in 2 apples at the same time? How, and if that's true, how can something be in 2 places at once? I mean, that's a decent question, right? Now some of you are like, dude, who asks this crap? Like, who really wonders about this stuff? That's a decent question, right? That's a good question. What it's getting at is a problem about universals and particulars that we're going to talk about in a second. But this is how you approach, this is how people approach metaphysics, right? Is it bears a good lesson for us. They actually see things. They don't just look. They actually listen. They don't just hear, right? They actually are able to look at stuff and then ask questions about it. Way back at the beginning of the semester, this is exactly what I urged you and encouraged you to do. Ask questions. Wonder why. Because the answer to those questions will help you lead a more informed, more reasonable life. Okay? So, how is this possible? Okay, then the third stage is to, once you've identified the problem, use thought experiments, okay, something called thought experiments, to create counterexamples to your proposed answers. Look, if you're trying to figure something out and you're like, okay, I want to know if it's always this way. Okay, is it always the case that all college students check out in early November? Right? People will make these claims, right? Teachers will be like, oh man, my students are gone, right? They're not here, they're just surviving. I mean, okay, what would we have to do to disprove that statement? What's the minimum we'd have to do? Find one student that wasn't checked out, right? That's all we'd have to do. And then we go, no, they're not. See, here's an example. Okay? That's what you have. So you don't have to prove the whole thing wrong. You just have to give them an example. That's a counter example. Okay? So you propose an answer. You propose a solution that says all college students are bad, right? All college students are checked out mentally at the beginning of November. Now, let's propose a counter example to test that. Okay? That's a counterexample. Now, when we're talking about metaphysics, okay, that's a little bit hard because metaphysics deals with existing things and reality, right? So, what counterexample can you use besides reality? Non-reality? Okay, so counterexamples in metaphysics take the form of possible world scenarios. Okay, possible world scenarios. So you have possible worlds, impossible worlds, and then the actual world. Okay, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to do is figure out what's possible in this world, what's impossible, and then use that information to determine what's going on in the actual world. Okay, so here's let's go through this. Here's our proposal. Minds, okay, minds with a D. Minds are simply brains. Minds, brains, same thing. That's the proposal that's out there. Now, we already talked about this, so you guys should know, or at least have more ideas about this, but let's just say the proposal is minds are simply brains. Okay? Another way to put that is brains are sufficient for minds. If you have a brain, you got a mind. It's enough, right? A brain is enough to get that mind job done. Okay, you with me? So then another way to put that, right, in our syllogism form is if P, then Q. If the brain, then the mind. Well, we have the brain, therefore we have the mind. Okay, these are just two different ways of saying that top thing. Okay, so we're going to test that claim that minds are simply brains. Okay, so let's come up with a possible world counterexample. Is it possible to have a world where there are disembodied persons? Okay, let's just take that half for now. Is it possible that there could be a world with disembodied persons? Now, before you answer that, let me ask you this. Is it possible to have a world where 2 + 2 = 17? No. Yes.
Well, if it's a different reality, then how are we supposed to know?
No, reality is reality. Reality is the way that it is. It's not, you realize it's not this way like by arbitrary chance, like reality just happens to be this way, that's up and that's down, and right. I mean, so there is only one reality.
Another world wouldn't follow a different set of rules for reality. It would share the same rules with the current reality.
Right. Now it could maybe have not share more accidental rules like gravity or something like that, right? But we're talking logical rules, yes. Right? Logical rules. Okay? So is it possible that there could be a world where there are disembodied persons? Now remember, we've talked about persons, right? It's an individual instance of a nature that has appropriately complex mental capacities. Is it possible that there could be a world where that exists without a body, a physical body? Does that seem like it's possible? Does that defy any logical rules like 2 + 2 = 5 or like a square circle or something like that? It's not that kind of thing, right? Okay. Now let's think about this. Is it possible that we could have a world with zombies? Think Walking Dead, okay? Where you have brains, right? The brain is there, but there's clearly no mind. Okay, so this means we've got the physical structure, but there's nothing else really there. Is it possible? Logically. Okay, so what does this tell us? If it's true that there could be a possible world where we have a brain, right? We have a brain and a mind, and they're not in the same place because we have a disembodied person, right? A person that's not in a body, which means they don't have a brain. And it's also possible that we have a world where there are brains, but there's no minds. What does that tell us about this proposal at the top?
That's false.
That it's false, right? That it's false. Because we could envision, right? It's possible that this is false. We'll put it that way, right? It's possible that it's false. It's not, we can't just take it on face value, okay? Ladybug. Anybody else's place covered with ladybugs?
Yes. I was walking my truck yesterday. I was walking my truck and like 3 of them
Did
were
you get
just on my
attacked? Yeah,
shirt.
yesterday we get home at like 5:36, and it's like they're crawling on our house. Like our house is covered with ladybugs.
They're like Asian. They're called Asian. They bite and stuff.
Whatever. Just death to all of them. I hate them. Okay. We came in and there's like our back door has a little hole in it. They were all inside our laundry room. It was horrible. Okay. Vacuum. Anyway. So because we can envision a world where this is false, where this proposal is false, then it's not, we can't just take it on face value that, oh yeah, it's true all the time. Because we can envision at least one counterexample where it's not true. Right? You see that? That's the way you go through trying to think through these issues. Now look, this method applies in metaphysics, but it applies anywhere else too. If somebody makes we do this all the time. We make these huge, broad, sweeping claims, right? Because we think we're making a point, and we want to sound really powerful in our points. We're like, everybody does this, or nobody does this, right? We say stuff like that all the time, okay? Instead, I know you don't know, actually 62.7% of people do this. People don't know that, right? So they just kind of generalize. But at the same time, to discuss whether or not somebody's really, whether they really know what they're talking about when they say, everybody does this, then run a possible world scenario with them. Say, now hang on a second. Really? Everybody hates mushrooms? Can you think of a possible world where somebody, all humans hate mushrooms? Could you think, which is probably true, that I hate mushrooms. Could you think of a possible world where people like mushrooms? Is that possible?
Yeah, I love mushrooms.
Okay, so let's calm down, right? Take it down a notch, okay? Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. In metaphysics, it's especially helpful because it helps us think through things. We can't have a visualization of mushrooms and a visualization of somebody who loves mushrooms. I mean mushrooms you put on pizza and stuff like that, okay? So calm down.
So not magic mushrooms.
Right.
Okay.
Not those. Everybody likes those. Okay. So are you tracking with me? So this is the method. So start with what you see, what you observe, what you know, which means you gotta look. You gotta open your eyeballs and look, okay? And then go to the second step, right? Clearly state the problem. What exactly is it that I'm wondering? You do this in your journals. You're supposed to be doing it, right? I wonder, why do two apples taste the same way? Is it the same, is taste something that is in more than one thing at once? Or is it this taste for this apple and this taste for this apple, and this happen to be really similar? Right? Some of you are like, I thought about that before. Exactly. Exactly. State the problem, okay, and then use counterexamples to try and think it through. Okay, use possible world scenarios. Plus, you get to imagine some really cool possible worlds.
Try to eat 2 things at once.
Yeah. 2 apples at once? Okay. So this whole idea about the apples, right, and the tasting thing, okay, brings... No, just wait for this one. Okay, so this whole thing about apples, things being in places at once, we talked about natures being a universal property. Okay, let's talk more about what this means about this universal thing. Okay, what is a universal? What is a particular? Sometimes this is called the problem of universals because people don't always accept that there are universals because with it comes a few other implications that they're not willing to swallow, and so they don't accept it. So I'm going to take you through it. It's not called a problem. I'm going to take you through it and see what you think about it. So let's go back for a second to our is statements. Okay. So these is statements down here, that Socrates is human and Socrates is white. Remember, those are predication statements. They're telling us something like characteristics about Socrates. Okay? These, sometimes we call these properties. Okay? So give me a property of this room right now.
It's square.
It's square, probably. Pretty close to it. Okay, what else?
Spacious.
Okay, which is, iffy. Some people think that a 3x3 square is spacious.
Okay, yeah.
Huh? Yeah?
Some people hot, some people
Okay, if we had a thermometer, we could tell the actual temperature in here, right, objectively. Okay, what else?
Has 2 doors.
It has 2 doors. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 windows.
there are people in
Okay, good.
2 of the lights are off.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are all things that ascribe a description to this particular room, right? Okay, that's what's called a property of a room. Okay, now, would you say that those properties are exactly the same in all other rooms that are in existence?
No.
Okay, so keep that in mind, okay? Well, the same thing here. Would you say that Socrates is human and Socrates is white? Would you say that those things are the same of everything else that exists?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about a property. Here's where you do need to start taking notes. These are examples. Okay, I'm going to have a lot of examples in here. You don't have to write them all down. Just make sure that you understand. So give one that really connects with you or whatever. But a property is a quality that's of some sort that a thing can have, a thing or a person. Okay, a quality of some sort that a thing can have. So, for example, a car can have the property of being red, or in my case, silver. A dog can have the property of being brown and the property of being hairy. Okay? A ball can have the property of being round. Can a ball have a property of another shape?
Get flat.
Yeah, it can be flat. Okay, Socrates in our examples has the properties of being human and being white. Okay? We good so far? Now, do you see how this is also different from the other sentences about Socrates where it says Socrates is the teacher of Plato? Do you see how that's different? It's not a characteristic of Socrates himself. It's more of an identity. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Okay. In other words, Socrates would still be the same. He would still be human and white even if he wasn't the teacher of Plato. Okay? Okay. Okay. There are two types. Okay? Two types of properties. There's essential properties and there's accidental properties. Essential properties and accidental properties. Again, with the sentences about Socrates back here, okay, do you see how way back, right? We said this is essential predication, and this one, Socrates is white, is accidental predication. Okay, there are two types of properties, essential and accidental. Okay, have we talked about essential and accidental? We did a little bit.
For a second.
For a second. Well, that's really, you see the difference. We'll go back here. You see the difference between the two.
Now, why is him being white accidental?
Because he happened to be Greek, so he was white. But he could still be human and be not white. Right? Okay? So it's not as, think about accidental as not as essential as essential. Right? If he wasn't human, he really wouldn't be himself. Does that make sense? Now it's kind of hard to think about because we know Socrates and he really did exist and he was white. So it seems essential to us that he was, right? But when you think about it in juxtaposition to the human part, right, then you're like, oh yeah, it's not as important as human. That make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. It's possible that he could have still been the great philosopher Socrates and not have been white. It's just that he was Greek and Greeks are normally white. Okay? Okay. So, two kinds of properties, essential and accidental. Okay. Really don't overthink it. Okay? Property is a characteristic or a quality of something that something can have. Okay. So the problem of universals, back to the problem of universals, concerns how we understand these properties. Where are they? How do they apply to something? Okay. So it does seem that properties exist, yes? We just talked about a bunch of them, right? Cars being red, balls being round or flat, okay? It does seem that properties do exist. Okay, if so, what is their nature? What is their nature, these properties? What is their nature? Are they particulars or are they universals? Are they particulars or are they universals? Well, let's talk about particulars and universals. Okay, so particulars are, now think about this, the question we're asking is, are properties particulars or universals? Okay, so particulars are individual things, they're concrete, they exist in one place in time. Examples, an atom, a rock, a chair, a human. Okay, got it? Universals is an entity that can be in more than one place at the same time. For example, redness can be in more than one place at a time. Justice, not you or my son, but justice, the concept, the virtue, right, can be in one place. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Justus, though. Okay, so, but that can be more than one place at one time, right? I'm an advocate for social justice. I don't think that should be just in one place. I think it should be all over the world.
What's social justice?
What is social justice?
Yeah.
Social justice involves things being the way they should be in society. So, in other words, things like fair wages, no human trafficking, everybody getting the option to lead a happy and productive life, okay, no matter what their culture is and no matter what that means in their culture, they all should have the opportunity to do
Well,
that.
I looked up slavery the other day because you were talking about like your clothes and slaves. There's a lot of slaves in the world.
Yes, there are.
There's very few countries that, what, 6 or 7 countries that don't have slaves.
Yes, it's a bad deal.
49 or 49.8 billion people are slaves. Or million or whatever.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yeah. Did you look up the slavery footprint? How many slaves work for you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you might not want to. Yeah. If there's a website you go in and plug in like your belongings, like what you own typically, you could be as detailed or as general as you want, and it'll tell you
Pretty much anything that
approximately
comes
how
from
many
China.
slaves work for you.
I did that, and I had 49.
Oh, you're better than me. I had 51 last time I did it.
Pretty much anything you own comes
I have a
from
kid
China.
though. Yeah, it's big. It's a big deal. Okay, so but justice, right, is the kind of thing that can be and should be, in my opinion, applied in more than one place at a time, right? Not just like here for this person, yes, here for this person, but also for this person, this person, this person, and we're still talking about the same thing. When we say justice, we mean justice, justice, justice. Does that make sense? Okay, it's a concept. Okay, it's like love, right? More than one person can be in love at the same time. Not one person with multiple people, because that's weird. Okay? By weird, I mean probably not advantageous for your relationships. It just is not going to work out. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
Mhm.
You good? So, given these definitions, what is a property? Remember, a property is a characteristic of something. Is it a particular or is it a universal?
Particular.
Okay, why?
Because a property is something that an individual thing possesses. It's not, shared by like everything.
That's a tricky question.
Yeah, it is.
It is a trick.
Other things
Because
can
a
have the
property
same
would be like, this room is red, but red's not particular, red's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, this room could be square, but there are other square rooms in the world, so.
So good, you guys, so good. Okay, so let's break it down. What are we talking about? In the sentence, this room is square, what is the particular and what is the property?
This
Room
room
being
is the
square.
This
property.
room.
So this
It's
room is
square
what?
would
Is
be-
this room a property or is it the thing we're talking about?
It's the
the
same
same.
thing.
Okay, so what's the property of this room that we're talking about?
Awareness.
Square.
Yeah.
Now, is square a particular or a universal? Not the room, but
It's
square.
universal.
Universal. Square is universal.
So
Why do you think that?
Because there's squares everywhere.
multiple things could be square.
You too should be a square. I'm just kidding.
So it's a particular universal.
It's a particular universal?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Where-
I tried.
No, I mean, don't get caught up in the fact that you're talking about a particular thing, right? You're talking about a particular thing, but really the thing we're more concerned about is not the room, but the squareness of the room, right? Okay, that's what I want you to ask whether or not that squareness is a particular universal. Now, if it's the case that a universal can be in more than one place at the same time, then squareness would be what? It'd be a universal, right? Because more than, like Justice said, more than one thing can be square at the same time.
So the one particular thing you're talking about is the particular.
Is a particular, an individual thing, a concrete particular. They exist only in one place and one time. Me. Okay? I'm a particular, I'm an individual thing, right? I can only exist in one place at one time. I'm not both here and in my office. And, I wish, on my couch binging on Netflix. Okay? I'm not. I can only be in one place at one time. That's a particular. Now, I have properties, okay? Not being too weird about it. I'm about 6 foot tall, 175 pounds, in case you want to know. Okay? I mean, I'm wearing pink pants today.
Is it pink?
Are they? I can't tell.
Kind of match
Are
the
they
wall.
maroon? Oh, they do.
They
Blending in
match
with the wall.
wall.
Okay. These are all properties of me. So this idea of being 6 foot, 175 pounds, pink pants, okay, can those be in more than one place at once? In other words, are more people than just me 6 foot tall?
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband actually. Actually, we are both 5 foot 11 inches 3/4.
That's weird.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
we
both
can
wearing
both be
pink
the same
pants.
thing. We're not both wearing pink pants though. No. No. Okay, we are both about 175 pounds. Okay, so do you see how that works, right? You have a universal, okay, that can be applied in more than one place at once. Colors are like that. Okay, weights, temperatures, right? Properties seem to be universals. Okay. Okay, where are we? Okay. This problem, a little bit, now some people, and not everybody thinks that. Not everybody sees that as clearly as you guys see that, okay? So it does deal with how to classify things into a natural set, okay? A natural set is a set of things that seem to belong to the same group naturally. Okay? So think of things in here that are natural. Let's make a natural set out of things in this room.
Desks.
Okay? Including that one and that one.
Things with 4 legs.
And this one, right? And they seem to belong in the same group. Now, if we wanted to make it more particular, right, more detailed, we could say like desks with chairs attached to them, and that would only include these that you're sitting in. You see that? But you see things that kind of belong to a natural set. You look around the room at who's in here. What's the first natural set we group people into? Boys and girls, right? Usually not humans and non-humans, because usually we can identify when we see human. But for you, Justice, I understand. You've probably been put in the non-human group before, so I get that. Yeah. So, right, we look and we see how many girls, how many boys. Right? That's a natural set we lump people into. Okay? Maybe even in college, this happens, right? Traditional students and non-traditional students. Right? Or people that look a great amount older than traditional students. Does that make sense? I mean, right? You do this, you know. You walk into a room and see this. I do it too. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with it. Just we do it. But we do it so quickly, right, that we don't even stop to think about what are the categories that put things in sets, right? We just automatically see the set, right? We see all the girls. We see all the boys. Does that make sense to you? Okay? It's called a natural set. A contrived set is a set of things that are lumped together for no reason. They're just lumped together. The only reason they're together is that they got shoved together. Okay? Give me a contrived set. Everything in my backpack.
Yeah.
Okay?
Just stuff that gets shoved together.
Right.
Would we count?
Yeah, all of us in this class.
We just kind of got put in the book.
Yeah. The only reason you're here is because you're here,
Yeah.
right? Some of you are friends outside of this, I think. But like, right? At least those two are. Anybody else friends outside of this? No, really?
But I'd say we're all lumped together for a good reason.
Right. I mean, it doesn't assess whether or not the reason is good.
Yeah.
It's just saying that it's not like we'd put you together otherwise. It's not like maybe you're all members of the same athletic team and you're taking the class together, right? It's not like that. Okay. That make sense?
Get tired of me wandering halls.
Yeah. Just go in there and sit down. Okay. Here's another example for you, and this will either make you laugh or make you really mad.
Do we write this
No, this is all right. It seems weird.
down?
Tabitha, this is all weird. Okay. All right, so consider the following words. You ready? Red, red, blue. How many words are in the sequence?
3.
Just talking about the colors of the whole sentence.
How many words are in the sentence? Red, red, blue. Out of those. Red, red, blue. That's it. 3. Now, some people say 2. I've heard 2 back there. Why would you say 2?
Two of
Because
them are
red,
the same
red.
thing.
It's repeating.
Red is
That's
There's
a
only
word.
2 different words in the sentence. He said it 3.
But it's
didn't
not
ask
asking how many different words are in the
It
sentence.
asked
It's
how
asking
See what I
many
mean?
words
Every
are
time,
in the
everybody's like,
sentence.
what? It's like we're talking about red and blue, and you're all like, it happens every semester. Everybody's like, yeah, whatever, metaphysics, I can't take it. Just let it be over. And we get to this slide, and they're like, there's 2, there's 3. Like, people get all uptight about it. Yes, Jelani.
Should it be 3 if there's 2 different reds? Or would that be?
Okay, good. Your answer will depend on how you understand the nature of properties, okay? Jelani is saying that basically, like, it'll be like this. What we have instead of red, red, and blue is we actually, in reality, have red 1, red 2, and blue. Okay? Those of you that think that there are universal properties and say that you have 3 words in that sentence, this is what you mean. Those of you that say there are such things as universal properties and there are 2 words in the sentence, this is what you mean. Okay? All right. Furthermore,
So
just wait for it.
Okay.
You're like, how many words were there? It's weird. Again, like people will come back and be like, Ms. Brown, I'm still thinking about how many words there were. I can't get over it. I'm like, of all the things you can remember, relativism is bad, and how many words are in that sentence? Okay, consider if we had 7 red balls and 3 green ones. Okay?
2 colors.
How many colors? 10 colors or 2 colors?
2.
So why are there 3 words in that sentence?
Because words are not colors. Words are words.
If you had
You said
3
words, not
apples
colors.
on a table and somebody's like, how many fruit are on the table, wouldn't you say 3? Or you'd like 1 fruit.
It's just 1. Do you see the relationship between how you categorize these and universals? Look, if you have 7 red balls and 3 green ones, you've already made 2 natural sets, right? Between there's a set of red balls and a set of green balls. You see them as 2 sets, right? 2 sets, 2 colors, not 7 colors and 3 colors, right? You see them as 2 colors. Why? Because you know intuitively that color is a universal. It can be applied to more than one thing at one time. So more than one thing can be green. It's not like it's a slightly different shade of green or like it's a different concept of green. It's just green, right? Because you know that color is a universal. Okay, so you see those 2 sets, but you see the 2 sets, but you see, and because of that, because you see 2 colors, you see 2 sets. You don't see 10 individual things. Does that make sense? I mean, you do, but as far as
change
memory.
my answer on the last one.
To what?
There's 3 words.
3 words?
I was just thinking, we have to do a lot of essays. We can count every time I put in there is 1 word.
Okay, so here's the rest of this one. The 7 red balls seem to belong to a natural set, right? And then the green balls don't belong to that set. I mean, if you want to make the set balls, they would, right? But because we look at that, I know we're saying the word balls way too many times to be comfortable, but whatever. Okay, so like if you look at that whole thing, but we don't usually look at that and go, yeah, right? The first thing we say is not, look, 10 balls. We say, oh, look, there's a group of green ones and a group of red ones, right? Because we see natural sets. Our brain does that with everything. We just categorize things into natural sets. Okay, compare that natural set with a contrived set. A red ball, the San Antonio Spurs, the square root of 4, and the planet Neptune.
Oh. What?
That's a set, but it's clearly a contrived set, right? The only reason they're all there is because we listed them all in a sentence. You see that? Okay, you wouldn't naturally, your brain doesn't go there naturally, but when you see a set of 2 different colored balls, your brain naturally goes, oh, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red ones and 1 of the green ones for whatever. Okay?
So there's nothing that I'm trying to think of something that would match. Okay.
Yeah, I dare you. The square root of 4 and the San Antonio Spurs and the planet Neptune and a red ball.
They all exist.
They all exist.
Yeah, they
all exist in reality.
I did it.
Okay, this is stuff you really don't need to know.
Okay.
Okay, but it is really interesting. This is called set theory. This is talking about infinity and approaching infinity, whether there's an actual infinity. Okay? It's pretty good stuff. Did you know there's actually not there's not an actual infinity? Did you know this? Okay.
You can't get to it. You
Can't ever get
right.
to
infinity, you
Doesn't
just travel
exist.
to it forever.
What really we mean when we say infinity is approaching infinity.
Yeah.
Because we can't ever get to it. We just continually approach it. So it makes it infinity, right? Okay, so set theory. So again, set is a collection of objects called members or elements, right? You have a set and then the things in that set are called members. For example, the set of my children, Justice, Gentry, Whitley. Okay? The set of natural numbers, 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? So this is the set, right? Marked off with the parentheses, and then inside are the members of the set. But there are also proper subsets. That means a set within a set. Okay? So a set within a set would be like, take the set of my children, and then take the subset, my male children, would have 2 members, right? Justice and Whitley. Make sense? Okay? Or you could take a subset of the natural numbers from 1 through 5, take the subset even numbers, and how many members would be in it?
2.
2,
2 and 4.
right? 2 and 4. Okay? So you can have subsets like that. Now you can have multiple subsets and like members.
Subsets within subsets.
And members of a set. And we could have subset of a subset, right? So the set of my children, subset my male children, subset my male children under the age of 5.
That'd be Whitley.
And that would have 1 member. Okay? Make sense? Remember categorical analysis? This is all part of that. Okay? It does that again. Sorry, kid. Okay. Okay. So that's the first thing you need to know about this set theory stuff. Okay. Infinity, or what we call infinity, but is really a potential infinite. Think about this. It increases its numbers through time by adding new numbers. Okay? The set called infinity increases its numbers by adding new numbers. It's always going to be finite. Okay? The set formed from its members will never be equal to one of its proper subsets.
What does that mean?
The set formed from its members
Will never be equal to one of its proper subsets.
okay, will never be equal to one of its proper subsets. Think about a set. Think about a subset. Okay, set of my children, subset of my male children. Those are never going to be equal, right? Even if I had like 17 kids, right? It's still a subset is still going to be smaller. Okay. Okay. An actual infinite, though, is what's called Aleph null. That's what the little X is. It actually looks like this, right? Aleph null. Okay. And this is a set that's considered a completed totality with an actual infinite number of members. So we have a set, right, that looks like this. Okay. Inside are infinite numbers. Again, this is stuff you don't need to know, but if the set, okay, this set can be put into one-to-one correspondence with the proper subset of itself, it is an infinite set. So what that means is if you take a set, right, of infinity, okay, and take a subset from infinity, okay, out of here, take a subset, how many members are going to be in this?
Still infinity.
Still infinity,
Whoa.
right?
Because the set's always growing, so the subset's always growing.
So the set of actual numbers. So take the set of actual numbers, or the set of natural numbers is an actual infinite set with the number Aleph null. The set of even natural numbers is an actual infinite, right? So if you took a subset of this, natural numbers, let's say, infinity, okay? Take a subset of that, all the even numbers. How many numbers are going to be in that?
Infinity.
Infinity. Take the subset of odd numbers. How many are going to be in it? Infinity. So you have infinity, subset with infinity, subset with infinity. How is that? You got a subset that you're taking out of the set, but there's still infinity.
Because it's always growing.
So the number, but it's not growing, it just is infinite. Okay, it's not like there's nothing out there that's like growing, right? This is a concept called infinity. Okay, so that means that the number of even numbers, the set of even numbers, and the set of natural numbers are going to be equal. The set, think about it, the set of even numbers and the set of all natural numbers are going to be equal. They're both infinity. Right? And now if you're thinking, wait a second, we took some out of the natural set to get to the even set, but how can they both be the same? Yeah. So, how do we count for the natural set? But first, really, who cares? Okay? Really. Why should we care about sets and natural sets? And all that kind of stuff. First, well, we're going to stop here, but I'll say the reason why is because if you deny universals, hang on, I got like 2 minutes. If you deny universals, the answer to this question is if you deny universals, it leads to relativism and the loss of absolutes. If you say, think about this, if you say there is nothing that can be applied in more than one place at once, then it leads to relativism and the loss of absolutes, such that if you say there's no such thing as love in the sense that like more than one person can be in love at the same time, you say you're in love, I say I'm in love, I know what it means to be in love. I love my kids, I love my spouse, right? Like, if there's no concept of love that we all agree on, do you realize that allows people to identify what their own version of love is? And how quickly do you think that would get twisted?
Make it whatever you want it to be.
Exactly. So, beating my wife is now love.
Oh.
Yes.
Get out of here, Justin.
In all seriousness, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It leads to a really scary world really, really quick. But there are lots of people that don't think that universals exist. Because if they did, they would be accountable to things that they don't necessarily agree with or come up with. Right? So like when you talk about colors and shapes and stuff, that's all well and good. Yeah, whatever, because we can see that. But the moment you start talking about like love or justice or respect or like, right? This is where people disagree people fight because they disagree, but they disagree because inherently we see that it is a universal. And we should all be getting closer to what that means to love or what that means to respect, right? But the moment we say there's no universal, you do you. That leads to some scary things really quick. Now, probably most of us in this room are well-intentioned and we try hard to like actually make love look like love, right? But we all know, and probably know too closely, people who would take advantage of that and turn it into something really twisted. Here's the other thing. What happens to our communication then? If we're all identifying, if there's no universals, and we're all identifying everything from our perspective, from the colors to things, really important things like love, what happens when I try to talk to you about colors or try to talk to you about love?
We'd never be on the same
Argument,
page.
no one would understand.
We can't understand each other. We can't understand each other. It's a really scary, really isolated world really quick. So the importance of understanding what universals are, even though it seems abstract, it is abstract. And the importance of understanding that they really do exist in the world is really important. Really important. Okay? Good? I'm going to post a reading that will be due on Monday. I'm going to post it on Blackboard. There's no other page number on me right now. Okay, so you have a 3x5 card due on Monday. All right. Think about approaching infinity.
I really think I get relative. I want to get relative.
When is metaphysics